Well, it's not breaking news, but Sergio Perez is re-signed to Redbull for 2 more years, taking him all the way out until 2026. But why did Red Bull sign him so early in the season? Could it be that his performance gave the team confidence to re-sign him for 2 more? I don't know if that's necessarily the case, because the timing, if anything, has been kind of poor, considering that he's only scored 4 points for the team in the last 3 races, including 2 DNFs, and being out-qualified by both RB drivers in Monaco and as well in Canada. It would make you wonder, what's the motivation behind signing Sergio Perez? Could it be his performance? No, we just went over that, and I don't think that he is any better than anybody else on the grid right now. In fact, if you look at the statistics, he is being outdriven by his teammate more than any other teammate combo on the grid. So you got to ask the question, is it the sponsorship money of people like Carlos Slim? And now apparently Disney has a documentary coming out about Checo Perez. And so obviously there's going to be some Disney money behind him as well. He's a very likable person. He's very charismatic on camera. He has a deep connection with the Mexican community. So there's reason to keep him on the grid. But ironically enough, Red Bull is a formidable team, and they've never been one to shy away from budgeting themselves up against the likes of Mercedes or Ferrari. But it has to make you wonder about what's going on behind the scenes over there at Red Bull. Obviously, there's a lot of controversy surrounding Christian Horner, and a lot of it seems to have gone away at the same exact time, but there's also some circumstances with Adrian Newey, with Helmut Marko, with the Verstappen family, and there's a tug of war between Christian Horner and the board over at the drinks company. You have to begin to wonder to yourself, how independent is Red Bull Racing from the rest of the Red Bull brand? Now, this is all conspiracy theory. I'm just kind of imagining this because talking F1 is one of the funner things to do. But let's hear out this scenario that I'm about to run past you. Let's say that Christian Horner is fighting for autonomy and agency to run the team like as if it were his own team. He's not exactly the owner. He's nowhere close to it. He's more or less an employee, but he is backed by the majority shareholder. And the majority shareholder is on his side. And the board, now that Dieter Mateschitz is gone, is over here on this side. And there seems to be a little bit of fighting, if you could say. So, in my mind, comment down below what your thoughts are. The board over here is telling him, we're not going to fund your team as much as we used to in the past. We used to be performance-based, but now we're considering the balance sheet when it comes to your behavior. And Christian Horner over here is saying something along the lines of, well, it's my team anyways, and sure, I'll run it more independently. I don't necessarily need you. Here comes Checo Perez with a Carlos Slim checkbook. We all know that Formula One now runs under a budget cap of about $145 million, and maybe Red Bull, with its overhead and its infrastructure, is able to provide a lot of support. Clearly, that's the case. What if other things like driver's contracts, which don't necessarily play into the budget cap, become a factor when you have somebody like Max Verstappen, who is at the top of his historical game and is almost able to demand any price, and teams should pay it. It's justified by his performance. Red Bull's not keen on necessarily providing 40, 50, $60 million to him. I mean, it would be worth it to do it, but now this is Christian Horner's team, not necessarily a conglomerate drinks company team. So now you have to sell out your second seat in order to afford your first seat. And that's where Checo Perez comes in. Also seems to be the case that this is what's happening with the RB team. Daniel Ricciardo himself hasn't really earned the spot. He certainly hasn't earned the promotion, unless he's a marketable figure, extremely likable, and able to reel in sponsors more so than, let's say, a Liam Lawson. And now, this is the situation that you have at Red Bull. They've always been a performance-based team. In fact, the whole brand is always about that. But now, this department inside of the conglomerate drinks brand is being treated more independently. And now the performance is having to be compromised with the budget and the balance sheet. I'm not saying that they are going to slip, but they're not going to win races by 30 seconds anymore, or upwards of a whole minute. And it may have to do with what's going on behind the curtain and why, in the midst of this incredible dominance, there were rumors flying around that Max Verstappen might walk away. The important thing to think about is, at what point does the Red Bull team go from 60% performance, 40% balance sheet to 50-50 and over? That's when the team truly drops off. There have been a few analysts that have looked at the performance of Sergio Perez and the performance of Max Verstappen and said, without Verstappen, this is a mid-pack team. What happens to the Red Bull team then? And what happens to Christian Horner? It'll be interesting to see. And as a McLaren fan, I look forward to a more even competition between all four teams, Red Bull, Ferrari, perhaps Mercedes, and of course, the team in Papaya. Those are just some thoughts that I have, and I wonder what you think. Please leave your comment in the section down below. And if you like the video, give it a thumbs up. And also, I always encourage you to subscribe. My name is alexjrado. I am a motorsport enthusiast and also a Formula One artist. You can check out my website in the notes down below. It is radoartstudio.com. And I hope you have a great day. It's race week.